Hello, everyone, and welcome to another week's edition of the UGA Sports Call-In Show. I'm your host, Paul Maharry, joined alongside Ben Bachmann of UGAsports.com. We didn't have a lot to talk to you guys about prior to this afternoon. We're going to go over some Georgia versus Clemson battles, what it takes for a three-star to make it on Georgia's football team. But instead, there was some news that came out of Athens just recently about Scott Cochran, which also includes Will Muschamp. So we're going to really dive heavy into that. I'm sure you guys have a ton of questions. And we're also going to have UGAsports.com publisher Roddy Nabolsi join us in just a few to talk with us as well about what exactly is going on over there in Athens with Scott Cochran as well as Will Muschamp. What we do know, guys, and we're going to try to get this tweeted out so everybody can watch and take a listen. What we do know, Scott Cochran right now is not with the UGA football team. Does that mean that he will never come back to the UGA football team? No, that is not what that means. But as of right now, he is not with the UGA football team in Athens practicing, and he hasn't been for about a week. So we're going to dive, like I said, a lot deeper into that once Roddy Nabolsi gives us a call. But one thing to note of this is that Will Muschamp has now stepped into that 10th coaching position. And really what that means, guys, we're going to break that down for you pretty easy, is you want to have 10 recruiters at all times. And you're allowed 10 recruiters at all times to contact players. Those 10 coaches, which are normally all your coaching staff. This has happened in the past where a coach has moved on and a support staff member has stepped into that 10th coaching spot. In terms of recruiting, they can do more things talking to recruits or even going to games, things of that nature, that the support staff guys cannot, and what Will Muschamp could not do earlier prior to him becoming that 10th coach on the team. So to give you guys just an update, again, Scott Cochran is away from the team right now, dealing with some personal issues, but he, for what we know, and what we've heard from Kirby Smart, I want to bring that up for you guys. I'm going to bring that up. What we heard from Kirby Smart in his statement about all this was Coach Cochran is currently dealing with health issues and is taking time to prioritize his mental health and well-being. We fully support him as he takes this time to focus on his well-being. Kirby Smart came out with that today, just a few hours ago, really. And so that puts it into a broader perspective for you guys. There was no mention of Scott Cochran is no longer employed by the University of Georgia or anything of that nature. So, Ben, want to bring you on while we're waiting on Roddy here. Just kind of your take on all of this. I know it kind of came up out of the blue, so to speak. What is your thoughts on this?
Well, first off, I want to wish him and hope, he's doing okay and he gets better with his current condition he's in. I think it's not right to speculate on something like that, especially a personal matter.
Yeah.
So we're not going to speculate or get into that out of respect for him and the situation. So I think obviously when it comes to Georgia, yeah, you want that extra recruiter, especially he's recruiting LT Overton. To me, he's the best high school player in the country, no matter what class. But you look right now and you say his impact on the team this season, Will Muschamp stepping in, that I believe was also announced. He's expected to step in. I believe it's a special teams coordinator, and he's experienced. He's a former head coach, one of the best offensive coordinators in the country for several years, and he was at DC, at Texas, and multiple other programs. So they have a very experienced, very good replacement for him, and it's rare you get a former head coach, especially a guy who was a head coach for two SEC teams to come in and be that fill-in, and he has a great relationship with the team right out the gate. From all we've heard, Will Muschamp's really meshed in with Athens. Obviously, he loves it because he's from here and he played here, and his son's here. So, obviously, it's a good replacement for him. But when it comes to Scott Cochran, obviously, we're wishing him the best, and he might come back, he might not. Nobody knows that answer yet, so we're not going to speculate on that.
One thing, like we talked about with Will Muschamp stepping onto the field, it's unknown right now, if he'll be coaching special teams. One thought potentially is that he might step over and help the defense out a little bit, or even, they'll do some shuffling around. Todd Hartley has a ton of experience coaching special teams. He's done it in the past when they had just 9 coaches on the team, where he was the tight end and special teams coordinator. I think, and moving forward here, and this is all speculation, we don't know when Scott Cochran will be back. I would imagine a lot of the coaches are going to step up. You'll have one coach doing kickoff returns, one coach doing kickoffs, another doing punt, and then punt return as well. So I think they'll probably all, I guess, fit in and get in and help out as much as they can in terms of filling in that role for Scott Cochran. We've got some guys over in the chat, guys. We want to shout you guys out. Appreciate you coming on. Mark Gibson, Junior Baker. Is that Junior Baker? Is that the Junior Baker I know? Junior Baker, how are you, man? Michael Porter says, go Dogs. Danny Blackman says, good evening, Dogs and Dog Nation. He says, go Dogs, sick 'em. Mark Gibson says, Muschamp is an upgrade. Let's see here. Danny Blackman is talking to his friend Michael Porter. Trip Diesel says, go Dogs. Big Bill D says, quote, personal issues. I mean, it is personal issues. At this point, you can speculate all you want, but at the end of the day, it's personal issues. I don't think speculating about this would do any good for anybody at this point, especially not for Scott Cochran. I think, stepping away is one of those things where, it had to be done for whatever reason, and Georgia's kind of taken just a step back, letting him do what he needs to do, and they're going to kind of move forward. Guys, if you're watching in the chat, hit us up where you're watching from. We always love to hear where you're watching from, guys. We've had folks in Alaska, Korea, all over the place. So let us know where you're watching from. And then also, guys, if you have any questions about any of this, I know it's really early in the process of trying to figure all this out for Georgia, especially just a month away, not even, from Clemson. What does that do for the team, Ben? Or does it do anything for the team? Obviously, people are saying that. Yeah, I think this might be Roddy giving us a call here. Hold on that thought, Ben. Thanks for calling into the UGA Sports Call-In Show. You're with Paul and Ben. Roddy, is that you? Hey, Roddy, are you with us?
It's Roddy. He's probably on his walk.
Let's see. Yeah, it might be. Let me see. I'm trying to. We had him. We lost him. He'll come back.
Yeah, every time I'm on the phone with that guy, he's always on. He's always exercising.
Yeah, man. He's lost. Roddy's lost a ton of weight, and great for him. Hopefully, he'll call back in just a second. For whatever reason, we lost him there. A lot of people are saying, Dog 34190 from Calhoun, Georgia. Let's see here. Johnny Lester says, Scott Cochran stepping away from team, ? I love that guy and regarded him as a huge strength. Damn, this is horrible news. And guys, he's stepping away from the team for personal issues. That does not mean, and we have not gotten a statement saying that he's gone. If that was the case, the statement that we got from Kirby Smart just recently, we would have heard that. And Roddy, if you're watching, try calling in one more time. I patched you in, but I guess it didn't work. Give me one more shot to get you in here. Again, guys, the quote that we heard from Coach Kirby Smart, Coach Cochran is currently dealing with health issues and is taking time to prioritize his mental health and well-being, Kirby Smart said in a statement. We fully support him as he takes this time to focus on his well-being. So, guys, nothing in that statement said, well, Scott Cochran is no longer employed at the University of Georgia or anything like that. What is at the forefront of Kirby Smart's mind right now is obviously Clemson coming up. You've got to prepare for them, and you've got somebody in Will Muschamp, like Ben said, that can step in, and I think the coaches are all going to rally around. Does this have an impact towards Clemson, Ben?
I don't think it's going to do anything schematically because really, when you think about it, special teams.
I think we've got Roddy, Ben.
We got Roddy. All right.
Roddy? I don't know what's going on here. Well, keep going, Ben. What did you say?
I was going to say from a scheme standpoint, like special teams is probably the one of the three that really you're not changing much. A lot of, you're kicking field goals, you're punting, is it a fake? Is it not a fake? And really a lot of those decisions come down to the head coach if you're going to be that aggressive on a call. So I don't think from a scheme standpoint it's going to change much. I think maybe in the locker room. So I think that's where it may change things because he has a great relationship with the players. And I think, not having a guy like that around who's definitely very good for the culture and the environment of Georgia, that's something that may impact. I don't think it's going to impact how they approach the Clemson game, how the coaching is done in the Clemson game, or, what plays and everything like that. I don't think it'll have an impact in that regard. If it was Dan Lanning or Todd Monken, it definitely would have more because they are play callers and they do a lot of scheme. They have their own schemes and stuff like that.
Right.
But Cochran, I think it's going to have the biggest effect in the locker room, just with his relationships with guys and things of that nature.
Yeah, I mean, you're exactly right. We've got a couple comments coming in over here. Triple Diesel says it was a definite plus to have him on the staff as a team motivator for sure. Yeah, and guys, again, I don't think this is done. I don't think that this is completed. Now, could it be one of those things where in a couple weeks from now we hear that he is no longer with the team? Sure, but as of right now, I don't think that is the case. We didn't hear anything of that coming from Coach Smart or anybody inside the athletic department stating that he was done. So, moving forward, I think, and I this is all speculation, guys, because this has just come out recently. I think Georgia will be trying to bring him back in some capacity when he is ready. In terms of Will Muschamp now being able to, go out and recruit, Ben, does this change anything? Obviously, a ton of kids love Will Muschamp. It seems like almost every kid that we talk to, for whatever reason, on the recruiting trail, they mention Will Muschamp a ton. What does that do for the program in terms of Will Muschamp being able to, be a full-on recruiter now?
Well, I think you look at Will Muschamp, and the thing I've noticed, and I think you probably noticed as well, is he's been very important with the defensive back recruits. Like Kamari Wilson, Jaheim Singletary, Deion Bowie, I think he's recruiting him too, and Jake Pope brought him up. So it seems like the DBs are the ones you hear Will Muschamp with. That's what he played in college, same with Kirby. And I thought he was going to help Coach Adai being the new assistant and that being Muschamp's forte. Even at South Carolina, let's be real here. Their secondary's there. He just had a top 10 pick at corner there. So that's somewhere where I thought he was going to help out a lot, getting a new coach in the program adjusted, considering he's going to be coaching in the SEC for the first time. So that's what I thought Muschamp was going to do, and that's where he's going to mainly recruit. But now I think he's probably going to recruit more guys. Obviously, he's not going to stop recruiting Kamari and Jaheim Singletary and those guys. I think now probably he'll be involved in the special teams recruiting, and maybe for some.
Hey, Roddy, we got you there, Roddy. Roddy, can you hear me?
Hello.
Hey, Roddy.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so what is going on? Sorry to cut you off there, Ben. But Roddy, we've got Roddy on the line there. So, Roddy, finally, Roddy Nabolsi, publisher, UJSports.com, had some snafus there. I don't know if Ben can even hear you right now, but we wanted to get you on. So, Roddy, what is going on? We've heard this news come out of Athens. Obviously, Scott Cochran is not with the team right now. Will Muschamp has now stepped in. What are you hearing?
Well, basically that we've been sitting on this news for a little while because we're waiting to get some information. We knew it was a personal matter. We kind of wanted to – it's always a tough editorial decision. Do you go with what you know as – while you wait for more details to get it out there, or do you wait until you have more of the story? This one we decided to hold off because we wanted more of the story, mainly because it was a personal issue. I mean, we've always had the rule, look, if it's something personal, it's not going to keep a kid on the field or keep kid off the field, then we're not going to report it, But if he does something, that's going to keep him off the field, even if it is personal, then we do need to let the fans know that that person's not going to be available. A assistant coach in the first week, that's kind of that's a tough call. So we basically were sitting on it, and then it broke elsewhere, and we're like, okay, let's get. And then we saw a bunch of bad news, a bunch of incorrect news, so we went ahead and put out what we knew. But yes, Scott Cochran's not there for personal reasons. We know that. So I spoke to some people in the athletic association. The early reporting that he had left the program. A lot of outlets on the Georgia beat reported that. They were wrong. They've walked it back. They've backtracked. We've seen a lot of people trying to cover their ass because they reported something incorrectly. And that's why you don't report what you don't know. So as it stands now, he's not there. He's working on something personal, and I think he will be welcomed with open arms when he goes back. But, of course, there is the stipulation that when he goes back, maybe he doesn't want to do it anymore, or maybe there's more to the story. So, but all we know is that he is dealing with a personal issue. That's what Kirby Smart came out and said. If the guy had left the program, Kirby would have come out and said, hey, we wish him well.
Right.
But he said that he's currently taking time, So that doesn't sound like somebody who is stepped down, left, or anything like that. There are some wild rumors out there, and even the wildest rumors occasionally turn out to be right. But as for what we know, he's dealing with that. And the idea that, he's been replaced by Will Muschamp. Will Muschamp did not come to the University of Georgia to be the special teams coach. He's a former head coach at the University of Florida.
Right.
He's a former head coach of South Carolina. He had plenty of offers to go elsewhere to be a defensive coordinator. He could go to the NFL. He's a head coach. He wants to take some time off, be with his family, be in Athens. It's a great town. He just bought a house last year. We broke that news too. And he's not in a hurry, but right now you need all hands on deck. The season's here. You need somebody to help you with special teams. You need somebody to help you with the defense that you're rebuilding in that secondary. One of the best talent scouts out there is Will Muschamp.
Yeah.
And he has been fantastic as an analyst. He's been a fantastic friend. He's helping do game plans and stuff like that. But here's the thing. When you're an analyst and you were a graduate assistant type thing.
Support staff, yeah.
The support staff can't coach. They're not allowed to coach. There's only so much they can do. And they're not allowed to go on the road as recruiters. But Kirby and all the coaches are allowed 10 assistant coaches. So we've seen this whenever a coach is hired away, like when Sam Pittman was hired away.
Yep.
They moved somebody into Sam Pittman's spot. Say, look, get on the road. Go see this kid. Let him know that we still want him. Go shore up the guys that Sam Pittman was working on, convince them that it's still in their best interest to come to UGA. Kirby Smart is all about recruiting first and foremost. He's going to be sure that he has 10 available recruiters. And if you had to set somebody up to help you deal with special teams or to help you deal with rebuilding the secondary or anything right now, you're going to take Will Muschamp as your guy because he's one of the best coaches out there. I know folks can be kind of down on him because he didn't win as much as South Carolina or Florida as some of the others have. But you won't find anybody in the industry that says he's not a great coach. You won't find anybody that says he's not a great talent evaluator or a great recruiter. So
you could look
getting him to come.
Yeah, you could look at the stories that we've had recently on UJSports.com. How many recruits have mentioned Will Muschamp before their own position coach? It's been a ton.
Yeah.
He has been mentioned heavily in recruiting stories that we've had over on UJSports.com, and now he gets to be one of the 10 that gets to do a little bit more in terms of recruiting. Seems like he was already busting his ass while on campus, but now he can leave campus as well, if needed.
Exactly. He's just like Kirby. He only knows one speed. He's just a through and through recruiter, analyst, film scout type guy. Of course, there's a lot of Muschamps in the program, so I'm sure he's enjoying that part of it too. And he does love Athens. He is an alum. So it works out I shouldn't say it works. It's not working out better. It's worked out that Kirby, when he needs someone to step up, it's not a graduate assistant or analyst that you've never heard of. He's taking a two-time former head coach in the SEC and saying, look, this is a guy who's going to fill in until Scott Cochran gets back. Now, when Scott Cochran comes back, does everything go back the way it was? Maybe. I don't know. But I can tell you this, that has not been decided, and any reports to the contrary of that. I've spoken to people, all throughout the Athletic Association of Georgia, and to a person, they've said that hasn't been determined. All we want right now, only thing we're considering, the only thing we're looking at is the health and well-being of Scott Cochran. Once we get that squared away, we'll go forward from there. So that's where things stand.
We've got a few people in the comments, Roddy, that were a little upset. They're asking, so is Will Muschamp now the special teams coach? What is his official title? A lot of folks are thinking that he's just going to take over the special teams. I don't know if we have that answer yet, right?
We don't. We do not. And my gut reaction is that he would not take over special teams because there are some great special teams guys there. I think of Todd Hartley as being your first choice. He's done that in multiple places. He's been a special teams coach. I remember under Mark Richt and a lot of other coaches before you had that 10th spot, 4 different coaches would take on one of the 4 aspects of special teams. You'd have a punt coach, you'd have a punt return coach, you'd have a kickoff coach, you'd have a kickoff return coach. So those things could be split up. And it's the one thing of doing the watch-along show that we do with Coach Donna, where we actually watch the game and let the fans watch it with us. The one thing I've learned is how important special teams are. I'd always been kind of big on special teams because I didn't think those guys got enough love or enough attention. But if you deal with a head coach and you talk to a head coach like we do with Coach Donna, you learn how vital special teams
Yeah.
are. So it's not something Kirby's going to say, well, my special teams guy isn't here. We can wait till he gets back. No, they're going to address it. But because they're all coaches, it's something that they can do as a community. They've all grown up. They've all matured in the era of not having a special teams coach. So they'll just go back to the way they used to do it. Or, hey, maybe Will Muschamp comes in. He's like, all right, guys, this is what we're doing on special teams. I'm your new special teams coordinator, and that's my role for this season. But I think it's more about filling out that 10th spot when it comes to recruiting and being able to be in practice, walk out there and coach guys, whereas you're not allowed to do that in some of these analytical roles.
And just for you guys to think on here, nowhere in Will Muschamp's coaching career has he been a special teams coordinator. He's coached defensive backs, defensive coordinator, linebackers at LSU, then was the DC, associate head coach at the Dolphins, DC linebackers at Auburn, DC linebackers at Texas, head coach at Florida, DC at Auburn, head coach at South Carolina. Now he's at Georgia. And that's not to say that he will not take over the special teams, but he has not directly coached special teams. He has been a head coach, though, Roddy. So if you're a head coach, you obviously know a little bit about special teams, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Think about it. You're the one that has to make those calls.
Right.
You know, people love to give Kirby Smart or Mark Richt or anybody absolute hell about a blown special teams call. Why'd you have Justin Fields up there on the fake punt? Yeah. Well, that's a head coach call. Are you? And remember, it's the coach that tells the offensive coordinator, the head coach, like, you've got 4 downs here, or we're punting on 4th down. That's those are the big. Why does Kirby Smart make $7 million a year? It's to make those tough decisions on special teams and stuff like that. So he's not over there deciding. I mean, he could, but most of the time he's not telling which wide receivers are going to go into the game or which running backs are going to get that. He'll leave that up to Cortez Hankton and Del McGee, and let Todd Monken call the plays. Let Dan Lanning call his defensive plays, but the big decisions, the money decisions, the ones you get paid for, like me when I decide not to fire Paul on a weekly basis. That's a big money decision that we have to make each week.
Yeah,
so
that changes the bottom line drastically, big time. Yeah.
But those are the big decisions you have to make, and that's where Kirby Smart is. So Will Muschamp has made those decisions for many years, and so he knows what. And he's going to be able to bring a lot to it. Like I said, for years they didn't have a 10th guy, so it's not shocking that.
Right.
In other words, it's not like they don't know what to do. This isn't something that is a novel approach for those coaches. They'll be fine.
What are we going to hear? I guess what's the next step in this? Obviously, we've heard the Scott Cochran news. We've heard that Will Muschamp is now on field as the 10th coach. What's the next, I guess, step in this process? Where do we look for this?
I guess the only thing is really, when does Scott Cochran come back? So that's I don't think you're going to – if there's a second phase to this story, I'm not sure what it is other than wait till he returns. They'll man the forts until he gets back and then decide what to do from there.
Before I let you go, go ahead.
I think by this time, a couple days from now, hardly anybody will be talking about this story because there's more stuff coming out of camp. We just put up a little injury news about one of Georgia's players and what we're hearing thread on the board. So there's stuff like that. I think maybe next weekend there'll be a scrimmage.
Yep.
We get to talk to Dan Lanning on Tuesday. We get Todd Monken on Thursday. We get Kirby Smart on Saturday. There'll be shifting around on the offensive line, the defensive secondary, the wide receiver core, stuff like that. I think will become first and foremost. I think that's where the storylines will be going forward.
Now, before I let you go, does this have any bearing on Clemson, the first game of the season, in terms of the players in your eyes? Or is this just Will Muschamp steps in whatever role, in that 10th coaching role, they shift coaches around if need be, and then you move forward? I mean, that's how I take it.
I don't. The same here. I don't think that affects that game at all. I mean, if you look at what they've gone through the last 14, 16 months, this time last year we were wondering if they were even going to play, and they came out with the new schedules, and you dropped all your out-of-conference games. You started adding conference games. You changed the schedule around completely. A coach being out for a little while is and I'm not trying to make light of the situation, but it is far less of a big deal versus what they went through last year. If anything, coming out of COVID, and Coach Scott Cochran's issue could be exacerbated by COVID, but coming out of the whole COVID thing, I think people have learned to be light on their feet and roll with the punches. Things change pretty quickly nowadays, and if you basically, just like you have when you have an injury,
right,
losing
yeah,
James Pickens, losing Don Blaylock, losing some of your top players, losing Jacob Eason. It's like, wait a minute.
Oh man, taking it back, huh?
Well, I'm just saying, 8 days into the season, all of a sudden you're starting quarterback and you have to turn to a true freshman, and everyone just kind of dealt with it. So if you're down a coach, I don't think it's going to affect you that much.
Well, Roddy, we sure do appreciate you coming on, and we will look forward to more from fall camp. Obviously, like you said, we've got Dan Lanning, we've got Todd Monken, and then we've also got Kirby Smart, who we're going to be able to talk with all next week, and we'll have all that for you over on UGAsports.com. Roddy, anything else before you go?
No, that's about it. Wait, I do want to mention the folks watching. We have an unprecedented deal at UGA Sports right now.
We do.
Because we think 2021 is going to be the big year for UGA. It's going to be big. So we actually have a deal where you can get an entire year's worth of UGA Sports for $20.21.
Can't beat it.
For new members, it's for your first year only, but can't beat that. $20.21. Go to the front page of UGAsports.com and sign up. And I appreciate it. Good show, guys. Y'all take care.
All right, Roddy. See you. All right, guys. We're going to try to get Ben back on the line. For some reason, Skype. Hey, Ben, can you hear me? Ben, you should be able to hear me. There we go. Yeah, for whatever reason, guys, Skype updated before we went live tonight, and I can't answer phone calls with Ben in the call, apparently. So that's why we were having trouble with Roddy there for a little while. But, Ben, you were listening to what Roddy had to say. Any thoughts on what he was saying? It sounded like pretty much what we were saying as well before he came on.
Yeah, I just think that when you lose a coach, I always think, like, if Todd Monken was gone, or not to say Scott Cochran doesn't have the value these other guys do, it's just more of, like Roddy was saying, like when it comes to the fake punts and the fake kicks, and when it comes to certain decisions, we're going to kick it now. Head coach makes those decisions. I just think he's coaching up the punters and kickers more, things like that, where they'll probably roll more coaches to them. And I know they have special teams, little assistants that they have.
Georgia's stacked in terms of coaches and assistants and student assistants and everybody else. If you remember correctly, guys, I don't know how many years it's been now, Kevin Butler came back and was a student assistant finishing up his degree with Rodrigo Blankenship, and helped Rodrigo win all those awards and end up now, doing well in the NFL for the Colts. So Kevin Butler was a student assistant. Not to say Kevin's coming back. I think he's wrapped up all of his student duties at the University of Georgia, but he was a student assistant at one time for Kirby Smart, especially when Rodrigo was there. So, they've got tons of guys that can help out in that regard. And like Roddy, Ben, and I have said, Will Muschamp stepping up into that 10th coaching role. We're going to find out eventually. We talked to Dan Lanning on Tuesday. We're going to find out exactly how these coaches have, if they've turned into any other positions, or if just Will Muschamp has stepped up as the, quote, special teams coach until Cochran returns, or until the next step comes out of Athens. We think the first, Cochran returning, is the most likely, but, we never know. So, guys, Ben, I think this has been a great show. I want, if Dave McMahon's watching, Dave's probably got some stats for us about the Olympics and things of that nature. I want Dave to give us a call. But overall, kind of a crazy, turn of events in terms of really quiet week. Fall camp had just started. A couple players that we saw that really stood out because we haven't been able to watch practice is James Cook looked really good in the photos that we saw. Chris Smith and Quay Walker, we were talking about this earlier, Ben, before the show. James Cook looked really good. It looked like he added a lot of good weight. You had Chris Smith, who I think could play a pretty vital role in that secondary, looked really good in photos. And then Quay Walker, I mentioned this, and I've mentioned this numerous times. Quay Walker looks really good at that inside linebacker position. I think he's probably going to be the starter next to Nakobe Dean inside there. But, yeah, go ahead, Ben.
Yeah, I was just saying Chris Smith, yes, I believe what game was it? It was after the Kentucky game. McCount got hurt. So Florida won. Chris Smith was the starter every game.
Yeah.
And I looked at what Chris Smith did. I think I looked at the numbers, and I think he's only allowed 50 receiving yards.
Yeah, he played really well when the count went out.
Yeah, and in that Cincinnati game, in run support, and it's something that it's one of those deals when you look at defensive backs and run support and little things like that, and I always say wide receivers blocking and certain attributes like that, they really get overlooked because a really good block on the outside from a wide receiver or a big play in the box from a safety could be a play that actually decides a game. So those are things that people don't really look at much. But Chris Smith in that Cincinnati game, sideline to sideline, looked amazing. I thought that was one of the best performances by a DB at Georgia all year last year, and they had like 4 guys get drafted. DJ Daniel also go to the NFL, and he had probably one of the best performances of any of them last year in a game like the Peach Bowl. So he's a guy people really, they don't talk about too much, but because I think in large part he wasn't a highly rated kid out of high school, and he's been in the program for so many years. It took him 2.5 years to start, and injury being one of the reasons. But that doesn't mean that he can't play. I mean, he had Richard LeCounte ahead of him, so there's something to be said there. And I think Chris Smith has a chance to be one of those guys who does get drafted high if he does, maybe not first or second round, but especially in that third round range. If he has a good season, I could definitely see that happen.
Yeah, no, I do as well. Dave is going to be calling in just a second to give us our UGA stats of the week. Obviously, Georgia, the University of Georgia, came home with a ton of Olympic medals from these Tokyo games. I think they even beat out the country of Georgia. So that was interesting in terms of that. So Dave's going to be calling in just a second, guys. To wrap it all up, before Dave calls in, Scott Cochran is away from the team right now. Will Muschamp has now stepped into that 10th coaching role, and we're going to bring Dave on. Ben, I think I'm going to lose you here too, bud, so if you can just hang on for me until me and Dave get done, we'll wrap it up. Dave, are you there?
Hey, Paul, how are you doing?
Hey, Dave. Sorry it's not me and Ben. For whatever reason, the Skype decided to update.
Ben loves my trivia stuff just as much as you do. So
I know.
I'm
bummed.
that Ben's not there, but
I'm bummed.
We'll pretend that he gets the answers right on this one.
I can still see it. Yeah, I can still see him over here, so he'll give me a thumbs up whether he would get that trivia that you have for us. What's going on, Dave?
Okay. Well, first of all, I just want to say that obviously we talked very briefly about what should the topics be about today, and then all of a sudden, wham! Right at the end, the whole news came out about Coach Cochran, and once again, just like what you said and what Ben said, I want the very best for him, and because anytime into a personal note, it's very you got to think about the person and then their family at first. And stuff like that. But you mentioned a little bit about the Olympics. Yes, Georgia got 11 gold medals. 11 medals total, not 11 gold medals. That'd be great if they got 11.
Yeah, that would be unreal.
11 medals. 11 medals total, and the United States had 113. Now, not all the medals were United States, but if you got to think about the topic, that's pretty impressive that they got 11 medals total, including they got 3 gold, 2 silvers, and 6 bronzes. So good for them. I also want to talk about a little bit backtrack when I heard you and Roddy mentioning possible special teams coach and whatnot. And you both have, and all three of you basically said that Will Muschamp is probably not going to be the coordinator, but he might have some inputs here and there. But when he was the coach at Florida, Florida had, even though it was only for a very short period of time, had 4 kickoff returns for touchdowns at the time. And when he was at South Carolina, they also had 4 kickoff returns for a touchdown.
Wow.
So maybe he could take over that kind of range, because that was pretty cool on that part. And then also when you also mentioned Todd Hartley, when Hartley was he was a special teams coordinator at Miami, if people remember, from 2016 to 2018. At that period of time, Miami had 3 different players that had punt return for a touchdown. So Georgia is not woe is me because they're losing their special teams coach. They have a lot of capable people that could fill in for the meantime in those areas.
Right. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
I also want to mention one of the things I like talking about is former Bulldogs' birthdays. There's 3 birthdays that I could remember right off the top of my head. One guy is named Bob Etter. You know who Bob Etter is?
Bob Etter? No. Unfortunately, I do not.
ECER. He was Vince Dooley's first kicker back in the early mid 1960s, from 64 to 66. But I mean, even though he was a very good kicker, very solid kicker, he's best known probably for Georgia fans as in the 1964 Florida game when it scored tied 7-7 in the fourth quarter. There was a bad field goal attempt, not attempt, but it was a bad snap, and the kicker, Bob Etter, who's listed at 150 pounds, but from everything I've read about, including an article that Patrick Garvin wrote, he said he's probably about 135, 140 pounds tops. So, I mean, can you picture a guy picking up the ball, scoop up the ball, and then he ran for the touchdown to give the Georgia the 14-7 lead, and that was the final score, 14-7. So, I mean, you think of a nice little kicker and a 140-pound guy scoring the winning touchdown or so.
Look at that.
Good job by Bob Etter. And then later on, he actually was an all-pro in the NFL for a little bit, and he actually kicked for the Atlanta Falcons for a little bit. So Bob Etter is 76 today, according to what I've been reading about. Another birthday was Martrez Milner.
I remember him.
Okay. And but most Georgia fans know him as the guy who caught the ball against Colorado from Joe Cox in that 2006 game for the winning touchdown. So guys with big time plays. And Chris Terry has a birthday. Chris Terry was a big offensive lineman for Georgia in the late 1990s and early 2000s, I believe. And he was a second-round draft pick by the Panthers. Played 8 NFL seasons, but he was a 34th pick overall. So big Chris Terry also has a birthday today, 46. But I want to go back to Martrez Milner for a second. So Martrez Milner, in the NFL, he played in the NFL too, so don't forget.
Yeah.
And he also played for the Falcons. So most people, the Georgia Bulldogs and Falcons, you generally don't mix. There's been 5 players to catch a pass in 5 Georgia Bulldogs to catch a pass as an Atlanta Falcon. Martrez Milner is one of them. A guy named Preston Huber, which you probably don't know, but you should know because he's famous in the Heidi game. So for all this history people, look up the Heidi Bowl game in NFL history. Preston Huber has a big play in that game. But Ryder Huber, Martrez Milner caught passes. Can you name the other 3 players that were Bulldogs that also caught passes for the Atlanta Falcons? All of them within the last 20 years.
Oh my goodness. Hey Chad, if you can guess it as well. Todd Gurley.
Todd Gurley's one of them. He has the most with 25.
And they've caught passes for the Atlanta Falcons.
Yep. Second is Martrez Milner with 9. Third is Ryder Huber with 4. And then there's one guy with 3 and one guy with 1.
And you said it's in the last 20
Those are the only
years?
people that caught passes within the last 20 years.
Oh man, I
could tell you the exact years if you want.
Yeah, give me that.
2003 was one of them, and 2009 was one of them. They're both names you've heard of.
Oh man, the caught passes for the Falcons that were Georgia Bulldogs.
Falcons. Yep.
Because there's just not a ton out there.
That is correct.
I don't have it, Dave. You stumped me.
Okay. For the only catch in his pro career, Terrence Edwards caught 1 pass for the Atlanta Falcons. And then 3 catches for a guy who made a big catch in Georgia history, Ron Haynes. Ron Haynes played 1 season for Georgia and 1 season for the Falcons back in 2009. After playing several years for the Steelers, made 3 catches for the Atlanta Falcons in 2009.
Ben had it. Ben had it. Just so you guys know, Ben did have it. He's just not on with us right now due to Skype acting weird. But Ben did have that Terrence Edwards.
Good job, Ben.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, Paul. Well, I thank you again, and look forward to next week.
All right, Dave. As always, man, we appreciate you giving us a call. Hope that you have a great week moving forward. And Dave's gone. Look at that. He's just out of here like that. Ben, you're back with us, man. And
you gotta be kidding me. You gotta be kidding me, Paul.
I didn't have it.
I was texting you. I texted in this chat, said Terrence Edwards multiple times.
I didn't have it, man. I didn't have it at all. I didn't
I
have
would
it
have
at all.
gotten Ron Haynes though, so I would have been 2 for 3. But
How did you? So he had one touchdown catch, Terrence Edwards, and you had that. How did you have that?
Well, I knew he was on the Falcons, and I was like, especially when Dave said a guy you would know. He's like the leading receiver, so and he played for the Falcons. I'm like, that's logical.
Right.
But I'm shocked for a guy to have that many catches in college, to get drafted that low and not get that long of a career in the NFL was just bizarre to me. Because he had, what was he, like top 3 all time in the SEC?
Yeah, I mean he's still
this guy
Georgia's.
was only in the league for a couple of years as a backup.
Right.
Wow.
But Ben, we're gonna go ahead and call it, man. The Skype's acting weird and wonky. Any last thoughts before next week, which we should have a lot to talk about because we'll get Kirby Smart, we'll get Todd Monken, and we'll get Dan Lanning. So we'll have a lot of interviews to talk about. They're going to be talking about guys that moved up depth charts. Always, the coach speak. We'll try to decipher the coach speak for you guys the best way we can. Ben, anything before we go?
I'm just was going to say, stay tuned on the Vault and on the vent for some of the practice notes. I know Dash and the crew over there are going to have a lot of notes. If you subscribe over to UJSports.com, you'll get a chance to see the scrimmage notes and all the practice notes coming for the next few weeks heading into the Clemson game on Labor Day weekend, September 4th. And on the Vault, we'll be talking about a lot of guys. I know Kay and Lee's a big-time Cedar Grove corner in 2023. We're going to have a story on him soon. Some other prospects, so stay tuned over on the Vault with guys like me, you, Paul, Blaine, Trent, and Jed. And, subscribe, and we have a lot coming for you.
Guys, and like Ben said, subscribe. Now's the best chance to do it. For just $20.21, you can get your first year free, basically free. You got to pay $20.21, but use promo code DOGS2021 when you sign up. And, you can't beat that deal for the amount of coverage that you get over at UJSports.com, as well as the message boards, the legendary dog vent, and also the Vault where we hold all of our recruiting intel in. So for Ben Bachmann, I'm Paul Maharry. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We hope that you had a great show watching. If you're watching later on, we hope you have a great week, and take care. Be well to yourself, be well to others, and we'll catch you next Sunday, 7:30, right at the same spot. Thank you again so much, and have a great rest of your evening.